quietness. Surrender means to yield to the power, control, or possession of another upon compulsion or demand. And this is the lowest of the low level of awareness, is to surrender yourself fully under compulsion or a demand of another. And the lowest awareness of Allah is to yield to the power and control under the compulsion or the demand of His orders. A more refined level of awareness is to give yourself over to a spiritual cause that you believe Allah wants you to serve, or a path to which you feel Allah is asking you to follow. And the more refined level of awareness is to humbly and quietly surrender to Allah's decree. In Surah 57, Ayah 16, Allah says, "Is it not time for those who believe to quietly surrender their hearts in humbleness to the remembrance of Allah and to the truth that has come down?" As Ruby said, "Be crumbled, so wild flowers will come up where you are. You have been stony for too many years. Try something different. Surrender." Khushū in the Arabic language means abasement, humility, and stillness or silence. As Allah says in the Quran, in the day of reckoning, the voices will be silent in humility and surrender to the most compassionate, the universally compassionate, Ar-Rahman. And Abu Darda, one of the companions of the Prophet, reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, "The first thing to be taken from this nation will be humble reverence or khushū, until you will not see anyone in it with that humble reverence." So it's a sign that true knowledge is being taken away. And Ibn Jazay, a Muslim scholar, said in his interpretation of humility that it is a state in the heart of submission before the greatness of the Lord and His Majesty. And then the effect of that appears on the limbs and the faculties of the human being through stillness and being quietened. And this state might be accompanied by crying or ecstasy. And this humble surrender means to yield to the truly real. And so one of its characteristics is when the person is criticized, or let us say confronted with the truth about himself or his shortcoming, then he receives that with acceptance. And if it is true, he yields and consents to the truth. So that is a sign that the person has true khushū, true humble surrender and quietness. And another meaning of khushū is that the fire of the lower desires is quietened, is turned off, and the fire in the chests of people is turned off, and the chests are lit with the light of glorification of Allah, of the truly real. Third meaning of humble surrender and quietness or stillness, al-khushū', is when the hearts feel humbled or feel humility before the knower of the unseen. As the Sufi al-Junaid said, when he saw a person walking on the street, lowering his shoulders and lowering his neck, looking in the ground to appear as humbled and wearing humbled clothes and so forth. And he said to him, "Oh, ya fulan, oh so and so, true humbleness is here, true surrender is here." And he referred to his heart. It is not here, and he pointed to his shoulders and neck. Similarly, when Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second Khalifa and the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, he saw someone looking down and making his shoulder, lowering his shoulder during prayer. He said, "Oh, you who is lowering your neck and shoulder, raise it up, for humble surrender is not in the necks and shoulders, but it is in the hearts." And Aisha, radiallahu anha, may Allah be pleased with her, she once saw people also walking slowly and, lowering their shoulders, trying to appear humbled. And it's a pretense. So again, she said, don't do that. For Omar, who was a great devotee, he walked with firmness and fast paced, and whenever he speaks passionately and makes people listen. So humbleness is not to be quiet and not talking to appear humbled, but it is to speak your truth and risk that, because in risking saying the truth, there is humbleness, because you may turn to be wrong, or you may be criticized or blamed or praised. But if you are indifferent and you're just speaking your mind and what you believe is true, through that you can help others and help yourself. So humbleness and quietness or stillness does not mean passivity, does not mean to be a monk and stay wearing ragged clothes or lowering the shoulders and the voice. It is not like that. It is not in the appearance, but it's in the true state of the heart that is willing to humble itself before Allah, before the truth, before justice, before compassion and love and knowledge and so forth. There are some quotes from Rumi that illustrates that for us. So he says, inside this new love, die. When you die, you are quiet and still, and you are in humble surrender. So he says, inside this new love, die. Your way begins on the other side, become the sky. Take an axe to the prison wall, escape. Walk out like someone suddenly born into color. Do it now. You are covered with thick cloud. Slide out the side. Die and be quiet. Quietness is the surest, quietness is the surest sign that you have died. Your old life was a frantic running from silence. The speechless full moon comes out now. Here are other quotes from Rumi. The wound is the place where the light enters. So when you humble yourself before Allah in a state of helplessness is where the light comes and quiet that wound and replace it with a stillness and tranquil serenity. He also said, peaceful is the one who is not concerned with having more or less. The quieter you become, the more you are able to hear. Let silence take you to the core of life. The very center of your heart is where life begins. So close your eyes, fall in love, stay there. As a wise Gnostic said, who knows does not talk, who talks does not know.